AI won't replace a person. A person with AI will replace a person without AI.
I never view insurance as the be all end all. Insurance to me is the funding mechanism for those people to buy what they really need and us to be able to deliver it to them.
And then being involved with Smart Choice gave me an extra reason to build community, but we don't just keep it to insurance. We actually think it makes it a lot more fresh. Yeah, having business attorneys out, commercial real estate folks.
And when people register, I ask them a series of questions, but two of them are what's one thing you're really good at that you can help other people with, and what's something you struggle with that you need help with. And when we put their bio in the program guide, we publish all of that. So then people get that, they're looking through it, and they're like, oh, I need to hook up with that dude for this, or man, this lady can help me with this over here. And it really facilitates, the conversations when we get down there. And it's been pretty cool to see that grow.
Because my problem is I'm licensed for all things in all states and a little bit of a people pleaser. So you kind of get everything off everybody's desk that they don't want or can't find a home for. And you get buried in all these little ugly ducklings that are cool to work on. And I can kind of use from an experience consulting standpoint with startups, but it's not how you want to build a business.
For me, over the 20 years I've been in the industry at this point, the coolest part of the journey is just building those friendships and relationships in the peer group that we have and we run with. And I mean,
And then I still think you need to know what you're talking about, and it's going to be your E&O. If the AI does something stupid,
sure.
Department of Insurance isn't coming after them. But I do like it to clean up and professionalize some emails.
So my goal has always been to help each one of my four kids set up whatever business that they want to run around something they're passionate about and help them and teach them how to grow that to at least $1 million in revenue. And if I can do that and I leave my kids each with a revenue stream like that and an asset that they've built, it's way better than anything that I could possibly will to them that I've built. And they're going to appreciate it and hopefully perpetuate that and pass it down to the next generation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. Today, we have a guest that's probably been on almost every, if not every other podcast known in the industry except for this one. So I'm glad to have him on here today. Our guest is Brett Fulmer. He is the principal of Newport Beach Insurance Center and has his fingers in probably as many or more things than I do. So this is likely to be a very lively conversation, similar to the one that we had with Tony Canyas a little bit earlier. Boy, that thing was a banger. I can't wait to release it. So, Brett, welcome, man. Glad to finally connect with you and have a conversation in person.
Now, I appreciate it, sir, and it's pretty timely and funny to come on after Tony because you can blame him and insurance nerds for a lot of my shenanigans and meddling and interviews, and really it was that community that kind of got me writing, then interviewing, and yeah, I can blame for a lot of the fun stuff I've been able to get into.
That's good, man. So before we get ramped up, why don't you give everybody the 10,000 foot overview as to who's Brett, what's he doing, how did he get here, all of that.
Yeah, no, definitely the happy accident of insurance. Been working on my own shingle. I would call it for about 6.5 years. Started with some Insurtech, kind of easier carriers. Eventually found my way over to Smart Choice, which was a great experience to get to kind of where your classic shelf. Got pulled in there. So today I'm recruiting for Smart Choice, running my own agency. And then one of the kind of happy accident things I've fallen into is helping companies cross borders. Worked with a company from Canada before called Fineo. Got myself and them licensed everywhere. Currently helping a group called Broker Insights from the UK come to the US. I got a good buddy Avatar out of Israel. We're always talking with super early stage startups, getting the lay of the land. So that's been a fun niche. But like you said, a little bit of a jack of all trades and having a good time learning the insurance game.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, Israel's a hotbed for Insurtech. I don't know how many people really know that are on the periphery of it. I mean, I know people that are in it every day understand that, but it's really kind of amazing to see how much tech has been born from Israel and brought over here.
Oh, 100%. And I did kind of want to backtrack too and say thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm not sure when this will air. I feel bad for Rory McIlroy blowing up in the Masters. I feel like that was like one of the last ones he needed to win to complete, the
Oh no,
circuit
I
of
haven't
the
paid any
Opens.
attention to it.
Yeah,
He's not going his way today.
it went sideways, on
Oh
poor Rory
no.
again. But I feel like this is like the last one of the last crown jewel podcasts. I definitely appreciate
Oh,
you inviting
absolutely,
me, having me
man.
on. Yeah.
I like one of my favorite things is to lay on the couch and watch the Masters and
hmm
like take a nap on Saturdays and Sundays every year. I've done it, my entire adult life. I just happened to catch that Justin Rose was
hmm
leading, and that was actually a surprise. I couldn't believe that. I don't know. I shouldn't say I couldn't believe it. I mean, anybody can win any day, especially in golf, man. But that was not the name I expected to see up there. So it'll be interesting to see where it all ends, man, because anybody can open strong, but you got to be a closer. It's no different than the game we play every day.
Exactly. Yeah. Some mental fortitude to work on the deal, get the details together, take a couple shots, keep going forward. Yeah.
100%. So, you said accidental. Like, what's your background? How did you get into the insurance industry? Certainly, were you born into it, or I mean, were you doing other things and just like the rest of us somehow found yourself here and decided you'd stick around?
Yeah, if I do seem positive around insurance, I used to do office relocation sales, grew up around that company. So you'd bid the project, manage the project, occasionally had to do collections and show up at somebody's office with like an invoice. That plus moving people across the country, moving Newport Beach household to deal with Newport Beach housewives out in Orange County, California. Once you've dealt like with moving and storage sales, insurance looked like an awesome, awesome opportunity to get paid every year, not manage a crew. Um, it was fun. I really appreciate where I got to like see the inside of a lot of businesses, meet a lot of folks through, my 20s, and then insurance was definitely a happy accident. I kind of found late 20s, early 30s.
So, how do you take the skill set that you develop doing that and bring it into insurance? I mean, there's got to be some level of translation, I would think.
The weirdest thing, and again, it's like you kind of pin this on the new guy. I used to get a lot of RFPs and I would print everything out, put it on like a giant drafting table, go through my checklist, see what we needed to do. And it's no different than insurance requirements, matching contracts, keeping dates and time in place. And it's funny too to look back and think about all the certificates we had to make and keep track of. And that would
Mm.
be on the opposite side of that fence. Um, yeah, sales, it's funny to say it, sales is sales, but it's I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better industry where you can do a genuine good and make really good money. That's one of the things that really drew me to it too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a valid point, man. So many people focus on the money aspect of
Hmm.
it. And I think, like, look, it's no secret. If you are successful in this industry, you can do very, very well financially. But, the fulfillment component of it doesn't, get completely taken care of with money. The fact that you're doing good by other people certainly makes it a lot easier to get up and go to work every day. For me, anyhow,
Hmm.
I hate to think that people have to go through a claim, but if I'm able to be there and assist them through what could be the worst time of their life and they come out on the other side and they're essentially made whole again, there's some satisfaction in being able to do that too. So, I agree with you, man. It's kind of a bifurcated reason why I enjoy it and why I've stuck around. Obviously the money's very attractive, but I like the fulfillment of the other end of it. And then even to take it a step further, just working with other producers or the team in my agency and giving those people the ability to maximize their own potential, both skill set wise as well as financially. And we talked about this. I think he may even have been on the podcast with Tony. You're 4 out of 4 today, so I'm wrapping up and saving my voice for the weekend after this one. But we even talked about it. I get much greater satisfaction out of watching other people on my team or in my community win than I do winning myself at this point. And maybe it's just because I'm north of 50 now and look at life a little bit differently, but there's something to be said for that. I just truly enjoy investing in others and watching them take those skills that we teach them and win with them.
No, 100%. And it's kind of funny being all the way out here in California with you in Florida because I got some local buddies like Vadim Enberg, I want to say, who's part of the
Yeah.
group. And then
Oh
Connery,
yeah.
he always has great things to say. That's another, I'll call it big boutique in the neighborhood that really knows what they're doing. I know that they're part of the power producers tribe, but
Oh yeah, no,
across the
Jerry's
sea.
Jerry's got a great
Yeah.
agency.
Hmm.
He and I think very similarly on a lot of things in terms of how we approach accounts and value that's driven and the way those conversations happen outside of just simply going out and quoting insurance. And so it's always a great time to sit down and have a conversation with him. And then, yeah, Vadim's another one, man. Those guys are running and gunning down there. That agency's doing very, very well and getting ready to be doing even better with some things they've
Hmm.
got in the works right now. But I think that's one of the other things that's really cool about the industry, man, is the community. Like the community doesn't have any boundaries. You're working with companies that are overseas or over the border trying to,
Hmm.
to bring them in. And, Also we have relationships, both of us, all across the US. And it's weird because I can walk into a lot of places in Tampa and people have no clue who I am because I kind of fly under the radar a little bit locally because my firm's not one of the big agencies. I'm very highly focused in what we write, what we go after, but I could go into any number of, big I events in other states or whatever else, and people are going to know exactly who I am. And I have a lot of really good friendships and relationships that way. And I think that's been probably for me over the 20 years I've been in the industry at this point, the coolest part of the journey is just building those friendships and relationships in the peer group that we have and we run with. And I mean, it's been crazy. COVID certainly changed a lot of
Hmm.
that for us specifically because Killing Commercial was born out of it. We weren't able to go out and do a lot of the things in person that we could do anymore. But more importantly, or more relevant to that is my wife, who used to travel heavily for her job, wasn't able to travel anymore. So I finally was able to have her home more often so that I wasn't doing, where we weren't even splitting a lot of the parental things. And she was able to work from the home and get the kids on and off the bus and everything. And I was finally able to put my head down and just really focus on building some really cool stuff. And, I mean, at this point where it's gotten pretty good size, man, Killing Commercial, I think's got 267
It's
agencies and over
awesome.
1,600 producers across the country in it. And it's great. My days are always busy. I love it that way. I don't ever have a boring day. If
Hmm.
I'm not doing something for the agency here and helping my producers, I've got a coaching calls scheduled with people that are working on, God knows what. And I'm pretty much wide open and on record about the fact I was diagnosed with ADHD in my early 40s.
Same.
But that's the thing, man. It caters to it, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't ever have to focus on any one thing for too long. And I'm always mentally stimulated by the stuff that I get to work on. And I get to see some really cool risks I never would have gotten to see if somebody didn't need, help or want to pick my brain to figure out how to get a deal done. So that's really rewarding in that way too.
I was gonna say guilty is charged. They
Oh
caught
yeah,
me earlier than you, but I got that tag as well. You know.
yeah, Tony too. When we were on the podcast today. I'm like, dude, there's no way, no telling how this thing's gonna turn out because we're both bouncing off the walls. But talk a little bit about. I mean, you've got a bit of a community that you've put together, out
Hmm.
there. I see you guys post, quite a bit where you do the broker brews thing or whatever. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I might backtrack for like 1 second, then
Yeah,
I'll
go ahead.
slingshot right back.
Whatever you
I
want
do
to do,
have a
man.
really good local buddy, Trevor Hayes, who I want to give a shout out to, who's building a cool niche agency. And then he's training up an old restaurant friend of mine, and they've been geeking out. And then he does listen to every podcast. He said, I told him I was coming on today. He was
Oh,
excited for
nice.
me, so I wanted to give him a quick shout out. But I guess that segues to the group. So 8 or 9 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, I was working a personal lines role and I went to like an insurance meetup that was kind of up a toll road and out of the way. I was like, this doesn't totally make sense. But try to bring good energy, cool ladies running it, very well kept, does high net worth insurance. I get an email from her like a week later. Hey, like I can't run this group right now. Can you take it over? I'm like, lady, I'm trying not to lose my, blank, personalized job. I'm not doing very good right now. I don't know if I should be leading a group about insurance. I get an email from Meetup like a week later. If you don't take this over, it's gonna fold. So my buddy Ryan and I did like an Insurtech group for 6 months and nobody showed up. This was like 7 years ago in Orange County. We're just like staring at each other. Like one Apogee rep came once. It was like an awkward mandate at like a yard house. Um, then we flipped it to Broker Brews, which has been really fun. And before COVID, it was like Eventbrite, Meetup. We get some kind of random people out selling gems or whatever else. And then during COVID, actually got a lot deeper because it became kind of an invite only Google list, more of a LinkedIn event, and it's been great. And then being involved with Smart Choice gave me an extra reason to build community, but we don't just keep it to insurance. We actually think it makes it a lot more fresh. Yeah, having business attorneys out, commercial real estate folks. And it's cool. People who theoretically should be competitors come kind of let their hair down a little bit, check in with each other, help each other out. Some of the guys have landed in awesome roles, with some of the biggest ones like Trucordia or like a sub brand of Alliant. So it's funny, even our little peer group has kind of like gone up the ladder, and it's really nice that we're all still attached. But basically, the working theory of sales is kind of a weird, lonely island. So it's nice to have a place once a month that gets you out of the office early, gets you home early. I'll give away some of the secret sauce. We tend to do breweries on Wednesdays because they're kind of a dead zone. And if you do 4 to 6, you're not really competing with anybody. They're happy to have you out. We are trying to figure out the like maybe like a mastermind like coffee sort of yang because we feel like we have something good, but doesn't feel like a full circle. We did our first golf tournament last year. That was awesome. We had over 60 people out, 100 people for dinner, or 60 golfers out. Made a couple dollars. The whole point wasn't to make money, but we didn't end up in the red. So as a small business owner and it going through my own little shingle, we're at
Listen,
least
man,
plus.
that's if you make $1, you might as
Yeah,
well make 1 million off of stuff like that. Because
yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. We do Producers in Paradise in
Hmm.
Key West every year, but that is like I don't make a dime off of that. And I'm pretty vocal about it. I don't take sponsors for the podcast. I don't take sponsors for pretty much anything I do except for that. And the only
Yeah.
reason I do is because if I take money from anybody for anything, it needs to benefit the community as a whole, not just
Hmm.
me. Otherwise, everybody wonders what filter I'm running things through on the podcast. If I have a sponsor out there, like maybe I'm not really saying what I
Yeah.
want to say. And the reality is, I'm not going to be beholden to anybody as far as what I'm going to say on my own platform. I'm going to say what I want. But, that's the cool part. We get the sponsors to come in.
Hmm.
We're right in the throes right now, man. It's like literally little bit over 2 months away, but they pay for the whole thing as long as
It's
people
cool.
can fly down there and they can take care of their hotel room. Everything else,
Oh
meals
wow.
and all the sessions, all of that stuff is paid for with the sponsor money. And I mean, we do some cool stuff. This year, we're going to have a dozen center console boats that we charter that go out and take people fishing in one of the best fisheries in the entire world and out off of Key West. And for the people who don't do that, we take a couple eco tour boats out and they're able to go out and kind of cruise around and paddleboard and snorkel and all of that kind of stuff. But we flipped it on its head, man, because you go to an insurance conference, the thing you always hear people talk about when they get back is, man, the content was great, but I really wish I had more time with everybody who was there. I really wish we had more time in the lobby or the hallways or bending elbows at the bar talking about all of the stuff. And I said, you know what? If I ever do something, I'm going to do it the exact opposite
Mm.
of what everybody else is doing. So we meet and we have focused conversation and education for like maybe 3-4 hours. And the rest of the time, it's a free for all. It's literally everybody hooking up and having conversations about everything that we talked about. And that's really what makes it cool. And then the other thing that's cool about it is we eat what we kill, man. We do it on the streets
Yeah,
every day, but we do the same thing down there. So those center console boats aren't going out for recreation. They're catching dinner. That's what we eat
that's cool.
Sunday night. So we rent out a restaurant and do a hook and cook, and everything we catch goes over and gets prepared. And that's kind of like the capstone for the weekend where we'll just sit down and everybody has one last meal together. And if we're lucky enough that we get some blackfin tuna or some wahoo, we'll go have some sashimi and sushi rolls made and use that as an appetizer ahead of time. But it's a really cool time just to watch people who aren't really competitors because
Hmm.
they're geographically dispersed, but still just people that are peers in the industry sit down and genuinely pour into each other and help each other, with what somebody may be struggling with. And a couple of years ago, I decided that I was going to kind of, formalize that a little bit. So we started sending out a program guide in the treasure boxes with the swag a couple of weeks
Cool.
before the event. And when people register, I ask them a series of questions, but two of them are, what's one thing you're really good at that you can help other people with? And what's something you struggle with that you need help with? And when we put their bio in the program guide, we publish all of that. So then people get that, they're looking through it, and they're like, oh, I need to hook up with that dude for this,
Mm.
or man, this lady can help me with this over here. And it really facilitates, the conversations when we get down there. And it's been pretty cool to see that grow.
Oh, 100%. And then kind of similar along your lines, I joked that Broker Brews is kind of like the after conference without the conference.
There you
And
go.
we purposely are very minimally programmed to take a couple pictures and make a joke that's for tax purposes.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's fine. I don't go into this too often, but I lost a job like 7 years ago and just decided to start bartending more and start my own agency. And kind of like a hybrid of like consulting, bartending, my own agencies kept the lights on. And all the growing pains that go with that. But I
Hey,
used to
there's that
bartend.
ADHD
Yeah.
coming out, man,
Yeah.
right there.
No,
Three
it worked
different things
though.
you're juggling, and it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense, right?
It was like I always say, like a guinea pig who can talk, and then I joke that if I was working, if I was, a chef in a restaurant, I was like out of the dish pit, past prep cook, past salad station, but I still think I'm at the first part of the hotline. Like I have a lot to learn, but I've kind of rounded the bend. It's kind of funny, but I bartended for 5 years at a place called Blue Water Grill in Newport, and we would do that, like bring in your own catch, they'll cook it for you with a couple sides.
Yeah,
It's
man.
yeah, just a fun part of life.
It is. It's cool. It's fun to see people too. You know what I mean? And I get up, I give the same speech every year. It's the symbolism. We go out, we eat what we kill. A lot of you people showed up this morning and you went out to the dock and you had a guide that could show you the skill set you needed and you learned it and you perfected it as best your ability over the course of the day. And you brought back a bounty that we can all enjoy as a result of it. And it ties directly into what we do on the streets every single day, man. I mean, we all come into this industry, I think, for the most part, with outside experience, but very little knowledge of the insurance industry itself. And so we do have to rely on other people to sort of fast forward and get us on the track to where we can become, financially solvent relatively
Hmm.
quickly. It's not an easy thing to do to come in with no experience and build a book of business, or even with experience to start a scratch agency. I mean, there's always something that you have to push through to get to the next level to ultimately sustain and stick around and be successful, in whatever ways you measure that. And so it's really, really cool to see. But I mean, it's funny when you're juggling three things at one time. It's kind of like you look at everything that I have my hands in. It speaks to my ADHD specifically because I've got, Killing Commercial, the agency, the podcast, the base camp, policy T, crushing content. But a lot of that stuff is stuff that I'm doing with my kids too, because
Hmm.
that's the other thing that I think the
That's
insurance
cool.
industry gives us um, that sometimes people don't realize is some of the opportunities you have there. Because I didn't ever think I was going to work with my sons, but my two oldest sons are in the agency with me now, and my oldest son's actually partners with me in one of those businesses. But I had set a goal for myself early on that, I don't want to leave my kids a bunch of stuff in my will. I certainly will leave them things, but what am I really leaving them if I don't give them skills and teach them what to do with it? So my goal has always been to help each one of my four kids set up whatever business that they want to run around something they're passionate about and help them and teach them how to grow that to at least $1 million in revenue. And if I can do that and I leave my kids each with a revenue stream like that and an asset that they've built, it's way better than anything that I could possibly will to them that I've built. And they're going to appreciate it and hopefully perpetuate that and pass it down to the next generation.
I mean, that's awesome. I actually worked with my dad and my older brother for 6 years in my 20s. He was like the top salesman at that moving company for like 22 to 30 years. And if I needed a cashier in high school, I used to go like work office moves on the weekends. But it was fun. I still fondly look back at it and I still like try to scheme ways to like work and sell with him again. And it's funny because he's like a scratch golfer, commission salesman. He's a killer. I'm like, man, I wish I could even like hire this guy because I know I'm a little bit more like cerebral. But yeah, it's awesome you're having that experience working with your sons right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about it before we hit the record button. One of the things we mentioned we might discuss is some of the pitfalls that newer producers
Hmm.
fall into when they come into the industry. From your viewpoint, what do you see?
So again, more of a logistics background, had sold personal lines, had been moderately successful business to business sales. So I was like, oh, I'll just move over. And I didn't realize how like weeded the relationships are. Like the first things I wanted to get into were like cannabis and cyber insurance. I figured growth markets, but the IT guys were like, hey, I'll talk to my broker. And then the thing I ran into on the cannabis side was there were either like very white collar firms that were insured top to bottom or kind of gray market that didn't really care about the insurance. So those were some roadblocks 6, 7 years ago. Um, I just brought on a new agent yesterday at Smart Choice and I said I would almost keep my head down. So he's got some really good real estate referral sources. We talked about craft beer. We talked about a few other things. I was like, I might not even make a lot of noise about getting in the industry and like really hone those referral sources around real estate and property. We looked up some class codes you could write around, liquor stores and, breweries, and then maybe find a third one. Because my problem is I'm licensed for all things in all states and a little bit of a people pleaser. So you kind of get everything off everybody's desk that they don't want or can't find a home for. And you get buried in all these little ugly ducklings that are cool to work on. And I can kind of use from an experience consulting standpoint with startups, but it's not how you want to build a business, you know? So I would say
Yeah, no,
pick
I
your
agree with you,
lanes.
man. To your point, I think the industry puts a lot of unnecessary, I mean, it may be necessary, but really not at the level that we put pressure on people to go out and validate and produce almost as instantly as possible because, you know, that's what forces a lot of that, right? You get a new producer in that knows they have a goal that they've got to hit in order to validate and be able to keep their job for, lack of a better term. And they go out and that's what they do. Oh, I better write one of everything. Let me go out and call on everybody I can. They start with friends and family and work their way from there. And the reality is, you're really not setting yourself up for long term sustained success that way. You really need to find the places that you're going to want to spend the rest of your career, right? Find those businesses that you have some level of interest in, something you're passionate about. Maybe you want to lead with workers' comp because you really understand that and you know how much it matters to a business and how much it can affect their profitability. Or maybe you want to lead with cyber because that's certainly something that also affects literally every business out there. And there aren't a ton of agents that can go deep in it that really understand it at the level they need to be considered an expert. Or maybe you want to go into specific industries. I mean, there's a million things, man.
Hmm.
My advice to any producer is find the things that really motivate you, that make you want to pursue them and do that. There's people who lead with OSHA compliance. Go consult with people on that. The reality is build your value proposition first. That's what I would tell you. Figure out what
Hmm.
it is that you want to go right and build your value proposition around that. My number one hook when I sit to close a deal with a middle market company has absolutely nothing to do with insurance premium. In fact, we sell the deal before we ever even go to market for them. I'm not going to compete against 10 other agents in the marketplace tripping over each other if that's not really what's going to be in the best interest of that client. If I can go in and you're bleeding out on your loss runs and I can see you don't have the policies and procedures in place and the programs necessary for you to have a good risk profile, I need to focus on that because number one, that's where you need the most help. But number two, my competition's not playing there. They're all trying to be the ones that sell you the actual insurance policies. So we focus on all of those things and why they're important and how we're going to implement them and what those timelines are. And then when we get to the end and they say, how do we move forward? The answer is, well, the best way for you to do this, there's two different ways. First off, we can give you a consulting arrangement and tell you what it would cost for you to hire us just to come in and implement all of this stuff. But I would think that it would make more sense for you to redirect money you're already spending on insurance placement and let us do that on your behalf. And we can use a portion of the commissions derived to deliver the value proposition that we've laid out to you today. I never view insurance as the be all end all. Insurance to me is the funding mechanism for those people to buy what they really need and us to be able to deliver it to them.
No, that makes a ton of sense. And kind of part of my being in a lot of doors, I've seen the small retailer to like the middle market to an idea. Like I had coffee with a buddy who works at a top four who like does risk management for a publicly traded company. This morning, the larger you go, the more it's going to be about like strategy, loss control, maybe even like building a captive or doing something kind of financially savvy instead of just like purchasing insurance. What I'm kind of hearing is you're taking a commoditized situation and you're elevating it to more like risk management, where I think that's where the market's going to have to go. I mean, you're in Florida, I'm in California. These aren't simple places to do business
Yeah,
right
we're in
now,
the two worst,
you know?
man.
Yeah.
Texas is trying to catch up to us, but they're not doing a good job yet.
Yeah, New York wants to be the other picky one, all the
Yeah.
president states. But I do think we're going from risk transfer to like loss control and risk management, especially with weather and whatever else you want to talk about. So yeah, the industry is going to have to evolve. It can't just be commoditized product, and I think everyone will be better off for it. I mean, we talked about hopefully doing our job when the claim arrives, but the best claim is probably the one that never happens. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 100%, man. What are you seeing out there in the marketplace right now? I mean, you brought it up. We might as well address it because, I feel like in Florida specifically, markets started to turn, man. I mean, we can see, I'm not going to say it's soft by any stretch, but I feel like we got into the hard market a little bit quicker than everybody else did, but I also feel like we're starting to come out of it a little bit quicker than everybody else. Even on the personal line side, which I think has been hit the hardest. The commercial's been rough, but the personal stuff's been even worse. Anything property's bad, but
Hmm.
it's limited segments in commercial that are getting hammered, with the exception of auto. Auto's absolutely brutal everywhere in Florida, personal, commercial, otherwise. But if you're a plumber or an HVAC person, you're going to have a harder time getting coverage and getting good premium if you don't have quality control programs in place and all of the other things right now, because, well, guess what? You didn't have that for the last decade, and the claims started acting up as a result, and that's why we got to where we're at. But I mean, even on my property renewals and stuff that I've seen over the course of the last couple of weeks, it's been a lot better terms, and we're actually seeing premium reduction
Hmm.
without losing coverage at the same time. So I'm happy with where we're at. I'm sure my clients would like for it to continue to drop in terms of premiums and dollars they're spending out of pocket. But everything I hear from California is it's brutal, man. Like, I think you're as bad or worse than what we ever were.
Yeah, I'm hoping for more precedented times, a fewer unprecedented times. I agree, and I got in my first personal lines role like 8 or 9 years ago. So we started having like smart bumpers, smart rear view mirrors, texting while driving, everything else. And I mean, that was skyrocketing claims. You add inflation, during COVID and supply chains. Like there's a reason everything's more expensive. There's a reason why the auto rates are ballooning. It's all math. And the insurance companies are closer to hedge funds than charities. They don't want to lose money. So it makes sense that they pull back until the states participate in a way that kind of works well for them. Being in Orange County, the last thing I'd want to do is complain about the LA fires, and their effect. We were
Mm.
hoping things were gonna kind of open up and return to normalcy this year, and then early January, that was not normal, and
No, it
luckily,
was the exact
yeah,
opposite.
so wild. I haven't even been up that way yet. Um, luckily fatalities were super low, and hopefully it's a chance for like our industry to really shine and do what it's supposed to do, so still wait for that to shake out. Um, During kind of the most impacted time, some MGAs popped up, some what I'll call like point solutions popped up and really helped. So I would say before, for nice risks, you'd have 3 or 4 different blue chip packages, but over the past couple years, it's been kind of point solutions. And if you're with a good carrier, I tell people just to hold on.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean that's kind of how we've been playing it. It's still going that way. Um, but yeah, we're seeing appointments trickle open. Yeah, LA County, unfortunately for them, is pretty closed door still, but
Yeah,
elsewhere it's trickling open.
it seems like it. So, if you're running with Tony to some degree,
Hmm.
you probably got your fingers in some Insurtech stuff too. What do you like that you see out in the Insurtech world right now?
I would say it's interesting. You're gonna have to meet people in their systems where they're at. It's gonna be hard to take people to a third screen. It's gonna be hard to have an extra tool, extra device, extra portal. I see a lot of enrichment. I was not to say like an AI naysayer at first, but I was like, we're busy and this is a lot of noise. Um, Lately, I've seen AI kind of taking on roles more than talking about AI, and that's where I think it might be helpful. And then I still think you need to know what you're talking about, and it's going to be your E&O. If the AI does something stupid,
Sure.
Department of Insurance isn't coming after them. But I do like it to clean up and professionalize some emails. Um, yeah, I can mention,
I'll
yeah,
tell you what, man,
yeah.
I've been impressed for what I've seen, and there's several companies that are doing this. But I've been impressed with a lot of the tech around the policy review and
Hmm.
policy check-in stuff. I don't think any of it's perfect yet, but it's certainly way better than it was when it first came out. So even being able to look at things from a certificate compliance standpoint or compare requirements to what's in the subcontractor agreement, or taking a quote and comparing it to what's actually in the policy or expiring versus what you're presenting to replace it at renewal, and all of that. That technology with a little bit more tweaking, I think, is going to be really valuable to agencies. And I think that,
Hmm.
the account managers out there might look at that and say, this is really, I don't like this because, this is what I do and it's going to replace me. I don't think that's the case at all, man. I think part of the problem with account managers today and their schedules is that they're being stretched in so many different ways that if they can get that dialed in, to where it gives a single report that says these are the areas that we picked up on things that are messed up, go focus on them. we can streamline this to allow them to actually spend more time on the human end of the
Hmm.
things, maintaining the relationship, cross-selling, making sure that renewals are happening in a timely fashion instead of doing what I used to do, and that's print the frickin' policies and the
Hmm.
quotes out and sit down with a highlighter or two, in some cases, a legal pad, and go page by page by page. And, a lot of people probably don't want to rely on the AI, and I completely understand that. But I'm going to tell you, I relied on myself for a long time. And I can assure you that if I'm going through 300 pages of insurance documents, reading them, making notes, and everything else, number one, it's going to take me a lot of time. Number two, there's going to be a point in that process where I zone out for a little bit, and I'm highly likely to have missed something,
Yeah.
as a human. So I think we need to figure out what the happy medium is and how to blend the two together. And if we do that, we could deliver a much better experience for our team, but also our clients by extension.
Yeah, no, I think it's a research assistant, or it's kind of like a corner office sort of person you can fall back on. But at the end of the day, we're pressing the button, we're responsible. Palantir does a bunch of government contracts and like searches for terrorism, whatever else. They still have a butt in the seat. So like the data crunch, whatever else, but you still have a person at the end to kind of thumbs down, thumbs up, move it forward. I think we'll be in that state. And I like the classic, like AI won't replace a person with AI will replace a person without AI. I think
I
it'll
think
help
like
with a lot
30
of the heavy
people have been
lifting.
attributed for that quote, by the way. Like
Yeah, yeah,
Jeff Roy is the most popular one that I see online, but I literally, I've been to, I
yeah.
can't even tell you conferences, not conferences, but meetings and things outside the industry. And it's the same thing there. It's just not insurance agents. It's whatever their role is.
Yeah, no, it'll be a value add. And then, so I mean, I'm 39, got licensed like 10 years ago. They talk about, people retiring, losing people in the industry too. And this is still a huge critical component to keeping the wheels of society turning. So I think we'll take any tech help we can get. We'll take any warm bodies that want to jump in. We'll take, any of the other happy accident folks that, find this cool gig that you definitely didn't think about as like a little kid, but you're happy to come across a little later once you see how the world works. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What have we missed, man? What do you want to talk about that we haven't covered so far?
Um, I would just say it's really cool the community you've built and allowing agents to sort of lean on each other. Um, Maybe I think we hit some good notes. The craftsmanship when you kind of go middle market, or even the services provided by the big guys. It's not a commodity game, it's a relationship game, it's value add. Nothing too crazy. Just, I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate all the hard work you do to share knowledge with people across the industry. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Look forward to being in this game a while longer with everybody.
Well, thanks, man. The one thing I would do is I would encourage anybody listening to this. We talk a lot about the value add stuff, and you've heard several times, over the course of different podcasts where we talk about a level playing field. But the reality is, with tech, and even some, I don't even know Insurtech per se, but general technology and the advances that are made, the playing field is far more level than it ever has been. And as long as you're willing to make the investment in both time and monetarily, if necessary, you can compete against anybody out there, if you're willing to bet on yourself. So while the national brokerages may have the money to have the in-house resources for literally all the different types of loss control and risk management and actuaries and all of that, we're at a point now where you can outsource to a lot of that stuff at an affordable level and get a really, high, best in class person that's going to work on a per diem for you. So if you get those bigger accounts and you can handle the insurance side of it, but you're worried about your loss control chops, I wouldn't walk away from a deal because of that, because you've got companies out there that can help you. And Yellowbird is one of them. It's one that I talk about quite frequently, but they've helped us a tremendous amount and continue to help people in the killing commercial community too, because, I preach this. Like, look, if you need an ergonomist, go to Yellowbird. They'll find the
Mm,
best ergonomist in your area. Their secret sauce on the app is going to match that professional in your geography to you. And people get deals as a result. I think too many times we look at things like that and like, oh, I don't know if I can afford it, or how much is it going to cost? You know what? I look at any client relationship as an investment, both personally and monetarily. And if I want to keep them on the books, I have to be willing to invest at both levels. And specifically in the middle market, if you're just bringing accounts on, selling them insurance and thinking that's what's going to keep them on the books, I hate to rain on your parade. It's a lot cheaper for you to invest, a few $1,000s every year to throw at a loss control budget than it is to have to try and go out and replace that account when they leave because somebody else did.
No, 100%. Yeah, if you're playing commodity game, it's a matter of time. But if you're really a business partner helping evolve, how your clients are operating, it's going to be a nice win-win relationship for an extended period of time for sure.
100%. So what you got on deck for the weekend, man?
Actually, I kind of half joked I was jumping on some podcasts because we're expecting our first kiddo in about
Oh,
probably
nice.
16 days. So I was like, I'll
Oh,
go out,
geez.
I'll do a couple pods, and then I'll disappear in the baby cave for a couple months. So when they come back, you'll wonder why there's a super sales motivated Brett, that there'll be an extra little human running around here.
With
Yeah.
a beard. You don't shave the entire time. Come back looking like you came out of the cave, man. That's what happened to me.
So I'm 39 turning 40. I think I'm gonna trim this down a little extra so nobody thinks like grandpa's showing up as it comes out with this white beard, you know. But no, we're excited, man. We're thrilled. And thank you for the knowledge share. Thanks for having me on. But yeah, just baby prep and locking in and getting ready for the next part of the adventure. Yeah.
Well, I hope for the best for you, man. It's 16 days. It could be any day now. I mean, I've got
Hmm.
4, so it's you never know. You might think you do. With Caroline, I think we went into the hospital twice on false alarms, and then finally she ended up being induced. But every one of them didn't come when we expected them to. So you never know. Be careful. Be careful. You might jinx
Let's
yourself.
say like risk managed insurance. It's ready for the unknown, man.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on today. Everybody, we're going to wrap this one up. We will catch you next time. See ya.